I'm saying bye to all the lies and all the times you cried, saying that I wasn't right, yet I was right by your side. You manipulator, playing games, your friends commentators, and I don't know what you say about our private conversations, but it's got them hating. Thanks to all the rumors you be claiming, it's cool, I'm done with you, so they can throw you a celebration. You gon' hate it when you see me with somebody living better. I'm trying to tell you that me just doing me gon' have you jealous.
Hello, folks, and welcome back to Chris Wyatt Reports. This is Chris live in Central Pennsylvania, and we have special guests tonight. We're going to talk about a charitable organization that's helping people in need in South Africa. I'm not sure if they have operations outside South Africa, but certainly in South Africa. Let me adjust the Zoom session here really quickly so that those who are speaking are who you see on the screen, because there are a number of us in the stream. But today I'm joined by a few folks. First off, we've got Miss Eileen, Benn, and Kizito Amadi, who are joining us. And then Florence, I'm going to apologize because you told me your surname, but I didn't. I did so much going on here with technical issues at the start of it. So Florence, if you could pop on very quickly and introduce yourself so people know your surname.
I'm Florence Chiripanyang. I'm in England.
Okay, well, that was actually Chilipanyana. That was actually a lot easier than I heard it the first time. So I'm good to go. All right, so our guest, as I said, we're here to talk about the foundation. And I don't know who wants to take the lead. Is it going to be Eileen or Kizito who starts off and tell us about what you're doing?
I will take the lead, sir. And I will introduce Prophet Amadi. He's someone whom I respect very much, sir. He works in the Hillbrow area. It's a terrible crime-infested area where many people are loitering around. There's a lot of litter, but it's doing a splendid job in reaching out to these people. He also goes into the informal settlements. An informal settlement is just a posh way of
recording in progress.
A slum. So he works in that informal settlement. People live in houses that are 4x4 shacks. Children play in the dust. It's mobile toilets, sir. And for about 1,000 people, they have about 8 mobile toilets. It's terrible conditions, and he works under these conditions. So I will give him an opportunity to respond. But I would like to tell you about the organization All Nations International Ministry. This is the ministry that I run. It's in poverty alleviation, sir. I'm an ex-teacher, and I got into this ministry 36 years ago. I deal with about plus minus 50 pastors and caregivers as well. The caregivers are mainly grannies looking after their grandchildren. The middle generation has passed away because of the scourge of HIV/AIDS. So these grannies are hard pressed because all of their money goes into looking after these children. This today, an old lady came my way. The youngest child that she's looking after is 5 years old, and she's got 6 others, and that goes on and on and on. And then I look after 2 disabled organizations. And also, the issue that touches my heart the most are these walk-ins. People that walk, they start at 4 a.m. in the morning, walking towards me to look for help for food. HIV and COVID has really caused a lot of damage. Many people have lost their jobs, companies have closed, and of all the 36 years that I've been doing this, the last 2 years add up to all of those. I have scores of people walking my way just to get a little bit of food. Sometimes their clothes, it's the only one pair of clothes, set of clothes they've got. And they are very, very poor, but they are so gracious and so grateful for what I give them. And it touches my heart. Many times I've just got to force myself not to cry because it's pathetic. I say to myself, but for the grace of God, there go I. So that is the situation that I'm dealing with. I give these people perishable and non-perishable food, clothing, medical supplies when I have it. And what I enjoy doing is giving toys to the children, because these children live such miserable lives. They just play in the sand, and they have to share one 4x4 shack with the entire family lives in that shack. And what often happens, and it happens on a regular basis, somebody upsets the candle, and then 50 shacks go up in flames. These shacks are all over South Africa, all over South Africa. It's a terrible situation, sir. So I just want to give you a few statistics. South Africa has a population, I'm sure you're aware, of 55 million. And of the 55 million, 33% of them are unemployed. And others live on social grants. And the social grants is just a meager amount of money that barely covers the food bill. So, yes, I'm sure you saw in the last election that the ANC lost 71 seats. And they are now in alliance with the Democratic Alliance. The two are, I must say, are very uncomfortable bed partners. But maybe they're watching one another, and then maybe that'll help eliminate the corruption in the country. Corruption is at an all-time level, and crime is, South Africa has got a wonderful climate. Really, I would say one of the best. Beautiful game reserves. The exchange rate is so favorable to people, but people don't want to come here because of the crime rate. I don't even want to quote the murder rate in the country on a daily basis. It is a horrible situation. And, I'm just surprised that there isn't more social unrest, because it is not a good situation. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I tell you something, buying power is down, down, down. And the upside is that because buying power is down, I'm able to access the food to give to the people because nobody's buying it. So I'm able to give them the vegetables and non-perishable and perishable food and things like that, and bread. So I'm able to sustain them. Now, a lot of the NGOs are falling away because of high costs. So that puts more pressure on others. But, the thing is, you can give people food, but you don't want to create an environment where people become dependent on you. So it's, as they say, it's better to tell them how to fish than give them a fish. So what we want to do is make the ministry a lot more sustainable. So this is what Prophet Amadi is going to speak to, because this is his forte, and he's got some very, very good ideas of where we want to go to try and help. We get zero help from the government, literally zero help. The money that I get to run the ministry comes from one or two, a church and some well-wishers and my own personal finances. But, the thing is that electricity costs are sky high. Water, if you can obtain it. So many of the townships are sitting without water for many days on end. And really, it's a big, big problem. It's not that there's a water scarcity, but it's just the system is not pumping the water through. And, how do you run a school when there's no water? So the situation in South Africa is really dire. And I must tell you, I'm not exaggerating when I say it is dire. And I feel very sad about it because it is such a beautiful country. But let's hope things improve. We're doing our level best to make a difference in people's lives. And I think one is blessed if you're able to be in a position to give. So now let me hand over to the prophet. He will tell you.
Before you hand it over to him, let me just interject there for a couple of moments and get a few points of clarity to make sure we're straight. Now, so the ministry is the ministry working exclusively in Hillbrow, or does it work throughout Johannesburg or throughout Gauteng?
Sir, it works way beyond Gauteng, right up to the borders, even beyond the borders, even into Zimbabwe. It's an international ministry, even into Malawi sometimes. All over, sir, not just Hillbrow. No. Even other provinces as well, sir. Yes.
Well, that's helpful to understand. That's helpful to understand. So we understand. I wasn't sure it was just a local operation or you're doing something beyond. It sounds like it's quite extensive.
It's way beyond that. Way beyond that, sir.
Well, I'm,
Yes,
I'm,
sir.
I'm of course very familiar with Hillbrow. I've made repeated trips there in the past 25 years, and often people ask me if I'm crazy. But you don't get to know a place unless you visit a place, and so just like
Yes.
my visits to Kailicha and also to Alexandria, many other places in South Africa, Shoshaguvwe and Pretoria, I've actually been to these places, so I understand what you're talking about. But what we're looking at here is a system of neglect that denied services to a large percentage of the population under a previous regime, and now
Right.
3 consecutive decades of pervasive malfeasant negligence, corruption, and just neglect
Exactly.
by
You're
another
right.
regime, which is very much like the regime that came before it. It's just that the appearance of people looks slightly different in the most part. But okay, let me go ahead and turn it over now to is it pastor? You said prophet. Is he also a minister as well, or?
Prophet Amadi.
Okay, but
Prophet
Prophet Amadi,
Amadi,
it's
sir.
please feel free to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Okay. My name is Prophet Kizito Amadi. I'm the senior pastor of Disciple Church of Christ International. We started from Nigeria, and then by the leading of the Holy Ghost, we are led to come to South Africa. We have been here since 2012, and I remember in 2014, there's an instruction from the Holy Ghost reaching out to people. First was to start feeding people. When I found myself actually in Hebrew, I could see the need, to reach out. And the Lord said, this is where to go. And we feed people for 1 year. We fed people for 1 year, about 500 people on a Sundays. And the thing keep on growing. And since 2014, we have been doing it. Then come 2020, during the COVID, the situation now become worse. And also, not just only in South Africa, also in Nigeria. You can see what is going on in Nigeria. So, and the Lord has been helping us and through some few people, individuals who volunteered themselves and the church, we're able to reach people both in Nigeria, both here. And then after the COVID, the vision was enlarged. God enlarged the vision. And then Mama Eileen Benn came in to the picture, and I saw the incredible work she has been doing for over 36 years. She has been doing amazing work, and many. In fact, I discovered and have even seen testimonies of people she raised from their little age, adopted children. Like there's even the one living with her now. He's about 20 years old. His mother dropped him. The police picked him on the road. 3 days old, and she raised him. Now the boy is 20 years old, and then many has become doctors, many has become engineers, and all of that. So when I see the incredible work, then we came together and decided to join force together to see what we can do to the society. Because I can tell you, South Africa, the crime rate here is in some places, not everywhere actually, especially in Hebrew, Pretoria West, there's a whole lot. The crime rate is so much. So we now decided to join force together. And since then, the Lord has been helping us, and more vision has been granted to us on what to do. And now we see it's not just only giving people food, food is not enough. Food is to sustain their body, but food cannot secure their future. So we decided to also come up with some programs that will help to develop the youth, that will help to secure their future. Like as I'm talking to you now, we're working on football team, and we'll be launching it soon. Football team club. And also the Lord helped us in Pretoria West. We had a property there, land, about 167 plots of land. And we tried to start, things there many times, but criminal invaded the place because there's no fence. The place is very huge. So fencing it is a bit challenge to us. is a big challenge to us. It's a very vast land. But I see the reason why the land was given to us is to help the people there, because the crime rate there is so much. People are not they are not working. You see, some of them live. You see a family living below $70 in a month. In fact, I'm going to send you some of videos of what we do there and the environment, how people are living their life there. So when you see these things like that, you can't sleep. It gives you a sleepless night. You looking at human beings and you begin to wonder what is actually going on. And I see that government will do their best, but their best might not get to so many people. They might be doing their best, but their best is not reaching to so many people. And I see that there's a reason why God brought us, in that area, especially Pretoria and Hebrew, and He has been using us incredibly. I'll send you some videos. You see hundreds of them, sometimes 100, 200, 300. You see endless line, So we decided that that property will be used by the special grace of God. In fact, I have some of the pictures of what we want to do. If we're able to fence the place, then we want to have farming there, whereby the communities that they can come and work and get their daily pay. Also, we discovered there has a water, the natural water, the best water actually. They tested it, so there's the water there is one of the best, if not the best in South Africa. So we have vision of having a water pumping there, and also a mobile hospital, mobile clinic, because a lot of them cannot even access good medical care and all of that. These are the things we have in plan, and also a bakery, like baking bakery, producing bread, baking bread, to help the people, providing food and all of that, providing job food, and then also the youth, providing like skill acquisition or training, like which we have been doing. So many of them, we have been helping them, in IT programs and also media stuffs and all of that. We have so many youths now that are learning media stuffs, and some of them also in the music and all of that. So we have an act as well. We have
sounds like quite a comprehensive program you got set up there. Let me ask you this question, Prophet. Whereabouts in Nigeria are you from?
I'm from Imo State, from the eastern side of Nigeria, eastern part.
All right, the part that used to be Biafra back in the day, long time ago.
Yes. Well, actually,
that's quite a while ago, but that was a pretty bad time. But that's interesting. Listen, a little advice. You might want to stay away from Herman Mashaba. He blames Nigerians for all South Africa's problems. I just say it. Not to get political, but just saying. Look, it sounds like you're doing some very interesting things there. Let me get Florence in here for a moment. She's up in England, and I get the impression she plays some sort of role. Florence, can you tell us what, if any, role you play, or are you just like one of these Bill Gates supporters that funds it or something? What exactly is your role? Your microphone's on mute.
It's like she's muted.
Yeah, she's muted.
Her microphone is muted.
There she goes.
Thank you so much for giving me the platform to speak. And thank you, Prophet, my father, Prophet Kizito. And thank you, Mama Eileen, for inviting me to this platform. I am the daughter of the Prophet. In my role, I want to create a GoFundMe for this project. And it's a very massive project. So my role is to create a GoFundMe for the ministry and for this project, and see where we go from there. So I'm appealing for contacts for the GoFundMe as well, so that it can reach very wide area, US, UK, everywhere, so that we can make sure this project comes to fruition. I think that's my role.
Well, Florence, you said you're a daughter of the Prophet. I mean, are you a daughter in the sense of faith, or a daughter parentage-wise of the Prophet?
In the sense of faith.
Okay, the sense of it. I thought so. There wasn't much of a resemblance there. I want to make sure I understood that. So listen, I to share with both Eileen and with the Prophet, I have experience working with a organization in Botswana, which is also based in Malawi now. The founder is an American. She's married to a Malawian. It's called Stepping Stones International. And Stepping Stones, you're talking about helping people, get beyond giving them a fish, teaching them fish sort of thing. Stepping Stones started as an after-school program for what we call latchkey kids in America. In other words, kids that don't have parents at home. They come home and they're unattended, which frequently leads to bad outcomes. They get involved with, premarital sex or drugs or neighborhood trouble, things like that. So what they did in Mochudi in Botswana is they started this thing called Stepping Stones. They were able to get support from FMB and from other corporate sponsors to donate money, and from the Catholic Church it was there. And they started with this program, and it's meant to teach responsibility and teach life skills for kids. They even taught things like gardening, just so they know how to grow fruits and vegetables in their property. And it's been an incredibly successful program. We were able, through the U.S. military, to grant them money to build facilities for them. They got President Festus Mohai. He's got some foundation money in there, and they now have been doing this for well over 2 decades. And their early graduates graduate's not the best term, but I call it graduates, from having gone through their program, learning life skills, learning things like how to balance a bank account, how to have a bank account. Like FMB would get bank accounts at no fees. And you know how expensive it is for people to have bank accounts in Southern Africa. It would be free to them. And so these kids would learn life skills. Many have gone on to technical schools and to universities, but almost all of them have gone on to productive lives. And these are kids that would have been lost. And all of them initially were either HIV positive as children, many born with it, sadly, or they were orphans. Their parents had died from HIV. And it's an incredible program. It goes beyond just HIV now, but it certainly makes a difference. It sounds like, Prophet, that you are doing some of the things already, and you're trying to help these kids and families overcome generational poverty. Am I getting that correct?
Yes. Yes, that's true. That's correct. That's correct.
Yes.
Well, Eileen, you've been doing this, it seems like forever, quite a long time. I'm sure at times it must be disheartening.
Right.
At other times it must be very heartwarming what you do. And we can go through all kinds of reasons. I mean, I grew up in abject poverty in America, which is not the same as Bangladesh or Cameroon or even, Hillbrow, abject poverty. But nonetheless, it was abject poverty. And I didn't like being poor. So I look for a way to uplift myself. And for me, education was a key factor in that, gaining access to education.
Yes.
And then beyond that, a lot of life skills I learned by watching others. What are the challenges that you face, Eileen? I mean, are you seeing generation after generation still enmeshed in poverty, or are you seeing some hope where some people find their way out of this?
Sir, to be very honest with you, I see a very, very bleak picture, bleak picture. It seems to be getting worse by the day. I'm dealing with so many people who find themselves in a hopeless situation. I tell you, I find it so distressing. The situation has dramatically changed from bad to worse. I'm being honest with you. I'm generally a positive person, but what I'm seeing around me, really, I find so distressing. But at the same time, I find myself fortunate that I'm in a position to give. But as the Prophet said, we have to make it a lot more sustainable. And what we are talking about is not just off the ground. We need finances to implement. Somebody's offered us soccer kits and soccer balls and things like that for the kids and things like that. But we need somebody to network with us who can help us also financially, sir. That is, I'm sure that's a big issue, but if somebody can help us, network with us, give us whatever to just help us, because the country is, in my opinion, bankrupt on every level, whether it's the health system, the education system, even social development. They're closing many branches of social development. NGOs are falling by the wayside because they can't afford the fuel costs and maintenance of vehicles and things like that. So it's not a pretty picture at the moment. It really is not. And I'm sorry to say it like that, but that's the reality.
No, it's best to work.
Yes,
It's best to live in the real world. I mean, that's where I live, and I appreciate you also live in the real world, not one of roses and sunshine, and telling people it's going to be okay, because it's quite challenging. Last year, I traveled south of Zerost with the Movement for Democratic Change, a party that's based up there. It's a Tswana-speaking based party in Zerost. They won a council seat. And I've been in association with them because they were cheated out of the seat by the IC. So I helped them with some legal folks to get the seat restored to them. They got it, and they're trying really hard. But there's an informal settlement located southeast of Zerost called Rifle, and it's at a disused slate mine. And the owner of the land has offered to sell it to the municipality repeatedly. It doesn't need the land anymore, but the municipalities refused to spend any money to buy the land and take responsibility for it. They used to have a mobile health van that came out, but the ANC doesn't even do that anymore. There's no running water. There's no ablution units. There's no sewage. There's no electrification. The road is not paved. And this is 30 years after the new dispensation. And it wouldn't take much money. And it's that plays out all over South Africa. It affects mostly black and colored South Africans, but not exclusively. I've seen desperately poor white South Africans and Indians as well, but those communities tend normally to do a bit better for various reasons. But it's so sad and heartbreaking to see how people are in these circumstances. Either they're not taking steps to get themselves out of it, or circumstances force them into it. But I agree with you, and things are only demonstrably worse since COVID. The inflation that's kicked in since our presidency has changed here has just destroyed the resources of people trying to help like yourselves.
Yes, it is. It is. That is the reality, sir. That is the reality. But by the same time, we can't just fold our hands. We've got to try and do something. You know, it's the ordinary person that's really in big trouble, big trouble. So I don't know. I just hope things don't get any worse than this.
Well, 100%. I'm with you 100%. Let me ask this question to the Prophet. When you take food out, is it like a food bank? Do you have a storage of food that's donated, or you purchase, then you take it out? Do you run into circumstances, I imagine you do, where you simply run out of food and some people can't get anything? That must be very heartbreaking.
Yes, but God has really been helping us and making sure we have flow, because most of the people, if nothing comes, they're going to starve. So God has been helping us. We have a kind of a steady flow on that regard. And we have at Mama Place, we have a warehouse kind of where things are stored. Yes.
We've not run out of food, not at all. But we need to. I was thinking, if people, people can even grow their own vegetables on a little small space, sir. Things like spinach and cabbage.
And the thing there is that, in fact, every day there are new people. People keep on coming.
Yes.
You see new people, they keep on coming. It's like the news keep on spreading. So they keep on coming. So that's why we said it's not just only to give them food now, but we have to come up with the sustainable programs that also help the children, to have a future, and have a leaders of tomorrow. You see, if nobody cares for these ones, I think. In fact, we have a young man. He's from India. Rohini, I think Rohini is his name. He came to church. That was 3 weeks ago. Actually, he stays in the streets. This man used to be a chef, and international guy. And he entered here. He lost everything. Was frustrated. Found himself in the street, and then he got in touch with Mama. Someone brought him, and then they brought him to church. He was delivered. And then he has been staying. He was given accommodation at Mama's place. And as I'm talking to you now, this guy is going to Namibia tomorrow. He recovered his documents, He's going there for work. They called him for work. And then he's going to come back, I think, next week. By next week, he'll be heading to Kenya. His life just transformed. You see, the little help changed his life. He regained, his documents. He got his passport today. And that's the joy of the whole thing,
Yes.
I'm so impressed, not just only giving them food, but also giving them a future, also helping them to know that God cares for them. That's the most important thing, So, and some of them, they need spiritual help, physical help, and also they also need food. And that's what God actually is using us to do. But I must say, God has been helping in terms of food supply, because if we are to run out of food supply, it's going to be bad.
Yes.
Some people might not even return, but they just sleep there. You see, so that's the situation of things. People come from far.
Well, I'm not surprised.
So
that's the level of poverty that's going on and the challenges with inflation that's just driving it through the roof.
Sir, many white people, even in my road, have emigrated, gone to Australia or go to New Zealand. Many of them, and skilled people, very skilled people. The situation is not good. So, you know what I'm thinking, sir? Is there not some organizations in America who can network with us and perhaps, advise us and help us in one way or another? Because help here is very, very scarce.
Well, non-government organizations and charitable organizations, particularly faith-based organizations, sprang up in America. That's the origin of these things in the modern sense, and they're all over the place. We have all kinds of different activities that do that sort of thing. Here locally, we've got something called New Hope Ministries, which is faith-based, and they provide a wide variety of services, but it's just here locally, and it's grown from very small. They have a food bank. People are allowed to get food from it, but they also try to get people out of situational and generational poverty. They provide other services. One of the people I know that worked in a kitchen here locally didn't have the money to pay for a deposit for rent. He had to move to a new house because he was going to lose custody of his daughter if he wasn't close. And so they gave a grant so that he could put the security deposit down, that sort of thing. But there are a lot of organizations out there that do this sort of thing. I had something I wanted to say, and I lost track of it there a moment ago. It's going to come back to me, hopefully. But I did want to discuss a couple points there about what you guys are doing. Let me turn to Florence again here very quickly. Florence, have you started a GoFundMe already, or is it something you're preparing to do? You're on mute again.
Hi, I'm back again. It's something that I'm preparing to do. I think over the weekend. That's what I'm working on over the weekend.
Okay, excellent. So it hasn't started yet, so we can't direct anybody to it yet. What'll happen is if the pastor Eileen send me that link after you've got it set up, I'll share that on my program so that people can go there. But the thing I think that's challenging for you guys is that the need just keeps increasing and the resources keep decreasing. The pastor was, or the prophet was.
That's exactly right.
The prophet, I think, was overly generous, unless I misunderstood him earlier, when he said that the government tries. In my view, the government doesn't try at all. The SASA grants are a disgrace. the retirement disbursements are a disgrace.
Yes.
And it's not because there weren't resources there. Every day we turn over a new leaf, we find more corruption. Paul Mashatili has, unbelievable amounts of money. Zandile Gumeda, Pala, all the things that all of us would go to jail for. These people are getting with. Yeah, it's so depressing. And children, children at over 4,000 primary schools throughout the country, but most in the Eastern Cape, still using pit latrines 30 years after the end of apartheid. It's unacceptable. It's really sad. And I guess where we're going with this, and some of the viewers are mentioning this here, is that you can't count on government. Government is supposed to create the conditions for people to be successful. And the ANC has created conditions for the Cadres to become wealthy and the rest of South Africa to be screwed. I mean, that's my view on it. You guys are welcome to disagree, but that's part of the challenge here. So you're not relying on the government. You're looking to the private sector and to faith-based organizations. And I think that's the right approach because that's where you can get help from. There are a lot of people who really, really care about making a difference. And this is where I want to go. The senior moment has gone away. Two things. Number one, I had a senior moment a short while ago. I said Movement for Democratic Change, which of course is from Zimbabwe. I meant to say the Forum for Democrats in Rustenburg. So, the senior moment, the synapses weren't connecting. My apologies to Tabiso Morapantwa, who's the leader of the Forum for Democratic, the Forum for Democrats up there, not the MDC formed by Morgan Shangvari back in the 1990s. So, a little senior moment there. Beyond that, though, it is. There was also something else that just slipped out of my mind again. It'll come back. These senior moments. I haven't been getting much sleep lately. I've been running full tilt, taking care of a lot of things and getting information out there. But let me ask you this one, Eileen. What is the most rewarding?
Eileen calls you at 3 a.m.
No, that's okay. I was awake because I was working at 3 a.m. But
I'm surprised.
Don't be. I work 7 days a week. Ronaldo Jose on his program is always telling people I'm retired. I don't know when that kicks in. I work 7 days a week. I just don't get compensated for most of my work. That's the difference. This week I've spent over 36 hours volunteering at a veterans organization that's in serious financial jeopardy of going under. And I don't get compensated for that. I'm not asking for anyone to feel bad for him. I'm just saying that, it's just comes with the turf. But Eileen, for you've been doing this for a very, very long time. What has been the most rewarding aspect of it? I mean, aside from faith, obviously you have faith and that drives you to do this. At least I believe that's what's doing it. But there must be something. For me, working with people and seeing them get out of it has always been a great reward for me. I've seen so many people rise out of poverty and become very successful.
The most rewarding for me was educating those children and seeing doctors come out and lawyers and nurses. That has been rewarding for me, and also to see the gratitude. It touches my heart. I see these people walk for miles and they come and I give them their little food parcel and some clothes maybe or some toys for the children, and to see their faces turn to a smile, that warms my heart. I tell you, that warms. It's a little thing, but it means a lot to me and it keeps me going. Yes, also I've seen God provide things in an amazing way where I never expected to get help. I've got help. Many people know me and they come my way and they give me parcels of clothing and things like that. I appreciate that. But the need is so great that we need to do much, much more. My fear really is that we're going to see social unrest very soon. I'm surprised at how patient Black people are. They are so patient. They days without water. As I came here tonight, there were hardly any traffic lights working. Hardly any traffic lights. There's load shedding everywhere except where I live because I'm surrounded by a lot of politicians and they look after themselves very well, thank you.
Well, I would. Sorry to interrupt you, Eileen, but I would change that statement you said a little bit. You said you're surprised how patient Black people are. I would say that poor people all over the world are incredibly patient, whether they're white, Black, or brown. Yeah. Poor people tend to be very patient and tolerant of the things that are intolerable. I wouldn't limit it to South Africa. I mean, growing up, when I had nothing, I was never, and I saw other people had things. I was never woe is me, how miserable it is. I mean, I didn't, but very patient with that sort of thing. And I've seen that all over Africa and the Middle East. Not so many poor people in Europe. They're there, but places like the UK, you find them, especially today. But you don't see much of that in Germany or in Italy. People, for the most part, do okay. But I've seen poor people all over the world, and they're very patient and tolerant. Now, my senior moment has recovered, and I remember the second point now, so I'm going to come back to it. During lockdown, I started broadcasting. I just retired from active service in the military after 36 and a half years, just before lockdown in October 2019. And because I couldn't travel to Africa and do consulting, which is what I planned on doing, I started doing videos and broadcasting. I started doing lots of interviews. And when the lockdown was applied to South Africa, it was the most draconian on the planet. No other country was as evil to its people as the government of South Africa was, destroying their liberty and arresting them for trivial things. When that happened,
True.
Anecdotally, dozens of people who came on my program and communicated with me told me how their lives were threatened by law enforcement, by SAPs, how things that they took out to poor communities, particularly black poor communities, were confiscated. And we saw many cases of ANC and government officials, government bureaucrats hoarding food that they confiscated from people donating. Did you experience that? Because it's an issue I'm always asking people about. Did you run into any trouble with people trying to prevent you from going out and helping those in need during the early stages of lockdown? Did you and your organization, did you experience that? Because I wasn't in South Africa during lockdown. I can only tell you what people told me. I wasn't there to see it. Unlike your elections on May 29th, I was there at 14 polling stations, including 5 in Khayelitsha. So I can tell you what happened there. But I can't.
You're very knowledgeable on South Africa. I can see you know. Yeah.
What was the challenges you had during the COVID? Reaching out to people. That's what it says.
Yes. Well, what the challenges did I have? Many. Yes, they couldn't come my way. They were literally on lockdown, so they couldn't come my way. So that was a big challenge in itself. Yes.
But did you have any trouble with officials stopping you from doing what you were doing? I mean, I know people who tell me that they try to take things to help people because they were better off.
Not really.
Okay, well, that's why I ask, because it's best to run these things down. Now, there's a comment from Tracy Wolf in the chat, and Tracy says the children sell items they make, plus plants they grow. Very successful to help the youth. That's true. She said Eileen should contact large companies like Coca-Cola for sponsorships. Yeah, Coca-Cola, Vodacom, organizations like that, they always have outreach. Sometimes they turn you away because they do a lot of it, but many of those large corporations usually are able to help in some way. I don't know if you guys have made that approach, but going to businesses is always not always successful, but always a good approach to try to get some either financial support or material in-kind support. You know, here in the States, we have a lot of food producers that sometimes butcheries and bakeries that overproduce or undersell, and they'll give their surplus to food banks.
That comes my way quite often. That comes my way, bakeries and supermarkets and things like that. But I want to tap into companies who can help us financially, or otherwise we need vehicles. We need some vehicles to transport people. That's what I'm looking for. Vehicles. Yes. Amanda. Yeah. Sorry, sir.
No, that's all right.
That's what we're looking for. We're looking for vehicles.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Vehicles. So obviously that's an issue,
Yes,
and then of course you need financial support, so you have a budget to maintain them and then fuel them, of course, too. So that's
right.
Yeah, not
Yes,
just get them.
yes.
Yeah. In Africa, my experience, unfortunately, because I've lived in Tunisia, Liberia, Botswana, Malawi, Niger, Mauritania, Uganda, and Ethiopia. My experience in Africa has been all too often that people have their eyes on acquiring, but then they forget that you have to maintain and operate. So that's where the trouble comes in.
That's true.
Doesn't sound like that's a problem with you all.
That is so true. That is so true. That is so true. You have tremendous insight, I must tell you. Tremendous insight. Do you have anybody in mind that we can network with in America or elsewhere who can assist us in any sort of way?
Well, this is meant to be an interview, not a solicitation drive, but nonetheless, I will contact the organization I mentioned earlier and see if they can put me in touch with someone, because I'm sure they have a network of folks who do that, and we'll see if we can't turn something up. But I can't promise you anything. I'm not a fundraiser. Last year, we had an event for a veterans organization, and the people that usually do it had a bee in their bonnet, upset about something that was not legitimate. They thought something happened. It never happened. So they just dropped everything and walked away. And at the last minute, I had to go out as a retired colonel and beg businesses for donations for an event that was only 4 days away. So I'm not accustomed to doing fundraising. I'm accustomed to leading people and making decisions in peacetime and war and in business. So, but I will look into that and see if maybe they can put me into some links to help you out with that, and maybe we can find something. But beyond that, Prophet, what brought you to South Africa? I mean, if you mentioned it earlier on, I've forgotten. I mean, South Africa is for many people in Africa the El Dorado. It's like America is to the world. it is for Africans. A lot of Africans come to South Africa thinking it's that shining city on the hill that has great prospects. And while it has the potential for that, and for some people that's the case, a lot of people find out when they get there it's not quite as golden as they thought it was. The streets aren't paved with gold. So what brought you to South Africa? What inspired you to come there?
That's true.
Like I said, it has been God all through.
Okay, I did hear that. So God brought you there. It wasn't like you're like, okay, I should go to South.
Yes.
That's okay. I got you. Okay,
No.
You did say that earlier, but I thought maybe there was something else. Yeah. Okay, and let me ask Florence up there in the UK.
It was good.
Well, Florence is up in Leicester. Let me ask her, what brought you to this cause? I mean, you're in the UK. It's not like people just hang out in Leicester or hang out in Sheffield and go, you know what, I'm getting involved with an NGO in South Africa. What brought this about?
So I am the daughter of the prophet. So I met Prophet 5-6 years ago through ministry. So that's why I am involved in this. The work that he's doing.
So you were in Africa, or he came to the UK, or was it on television?
No, I was already based in UK when I met Prophet. So I came to UK in 2001. I trained as a mental health nurse, but now I'm in social care. So I met Prophet, and then I like the work that he's doing with the foundation and with the ministry. So that's how I got involved.
Oh, you mentioned mental health. Let me ask this question for Eileen, who's been doing this for a very long time. A lot of times we see poverty does have links, unfortunately, to mental health issues. That's something we frequently see with veterans from the military here in America who have post-traumatic stress disorder or the traumatic brain injuries from their military service. But in society, we see a fair amount of mental health issues that affect people and kind of mire them in poverty. I haven't seen much of that in South Africa. Is that a significant issue, or do you come across issues where mental health plays a role in people's desperate situation?
So, my son is a psychologist and a psychoanalyst, and he deals with it all the time. The depression, there's so many people who are suffering from depression, really seriously, almost bordering on suicidal.
All right,
and he sees that on a daily.
Sorry, I didn't realize you were pausing. I thought you finished there. So he sees on a daily basis. Tracy has offered some information here. She said you should contact Grow Strong, which is located in Grabau. I don't know how to pronounce it. My Afrikaans, ek praat nie Afrikaans nie. No, it's
what is it?
It's Grow Strong is the name of the organization. As in growing, Grow Strong, and then it's in Grabau, Grabou, Grabou.
Grow Strong.
Yes.
GRO.
Yep.
Strong.
Yep. 2 words. Grow Strong. Yep.
And where are they based?
They're in Grabau or Grabau. Grabo.
Grabo.
Yeah. Afrikaners can't pronounce G's properly. It's not Ronaldo. It's not Ronaldo. It's not Gatvol. It should be Gatvol. It should be Ronaldo goes, not Goes. Yeah. So it's that's in the Cape. Yeah. But reach out to them. I'm sure you'll be able to find them on social media. And they be able to offer. Grow Strong in Grabo. Yeah, there you go. Am I saying it correctly? Yeah, I think you are. Yeah. I think that sounds correct.
Okay, we'll certainly contact them.
Yeah, it's in the Western Cape. But South Africa is a small town country, so to speak. I find that if it's like when I lived in Botswana. I would, no matter where I went in Botswana, I could misbehave because I ran into people that I knew everywhere. In the middle of the Okavango, in the middle of the Kalahari, I'd run into the president's brother. I'd run into members of parliament. South Africa, I don't run into the president's brother or members of parliament, but I do run into people everywhere I go. My last trip, I gave up counting at 45 times that people just recognized me out of the blue on the street because they knew who I was all over the country. So I call it a small town country. And so, reach out. Western Cape should be a relatively simple exercise for you to accomplish. And Grow Strong, not familiar with them. Maybe they can help out. I could also, I can't promise anything, and I don't know that anything would come of it, but I'll ask for some advice from my friends at Stepping Stones International because they're pretty successful. They're a small operation, but very successful. and they've accomplished quite a bit in the time they've been out there. So it sounds like you're doing stuff that's very, very worthwhile, and maybe
that will help. That will help.
Sounds like you're doing stuff that's very worthwhile.
You
We'll
know,
try to get you some help.
There's something else I want to talk about. I deal with a lot of traditional leaders, kings, traditional leaders, and they are, to my way of thinking, doing a better job in helping the people than the government is. But they also are hamstrung. They need help as well. And I know many of these traditional leaders, right up until to Ghana, even the king of the Khoisan, Bushman, in other words, come my way. And you know what? They're the salt of the earth. They love to help their people, and they really genuinely help. But they also need help.
Are you referring to the self-appointed Khoisan king who camps out on the Union buildings? Is that the gentleman?
I'm sure that's the same sort of people. Yes.
Yeah. No. I've interviewed him in the past. He's a fascinating gentleman, and I assume you're talking about in the South African context, folks like Dikosi. The Kosis are all over the country. The traditional chiefs. That's who you're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I find that they're doing a far better job in helping people than the government itself.
Well, I have to tell you that despite I served in the military, and you know this is you know, I don't know if it's not a pat on the back, but I can tell you with complete confidence that we did amazing things: humanitarian assistance, disaster response relief, helping people all over the world. Of course, we obviously fought in conflict and wars when it was required of us, but we do amazing things. But that said, I can tell you that my expectation for government is very low. And I think the perfect example of that right now is what's happening in North Carolina, Georgia, and in Florida, where my federal government has been absent, completely absent. The president showed up 8 days after people were washed away in a storm, their bodies buried in mud piles and at the bottom of creeks and storms, their entire homes washed away, entire villages that have been there for 350 years, just gone overnight. And our government has been nowhere. They've offered no assistance. And instead they run around and claim that other people are spreading misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda when we don't need to spread anything. We can see it for ourselves. The response has been even worse than what FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, did in the wake of Katrina back in the early part of this century. And that one, which, anyway, so the point is that relying on government is not the path. It's not the answer. We see it time and again. It doesn't matter whether it's American government, the South African government. They're there to set the stage, excuse me, so we can all be successful. And I would argue right now that most of our governments around the world are failing all of us. They're not making any of us successful. They're just getting in our way. So let's see what we can do to find some help for you guys to continue with your mission and your ministry to keep this going. And maybe you'll be able to reach others and help others get out of it. Because for me, personally, when I go to South Africa and I see kids walking to school for 10 kilometers, that really irritates me. When I see kids go to primary school that has no electricity in KwaZulu-Natal with chalkboards, no tablets, let alone no electricity, pit latrines, and no textbooks because some caterer stole the money in a contract so he can have a luxury house in Hatfield, that really disgusts me. And that's not a race thing.
It's painful.
It's not a race thing. Yeah. It's a human thing. Greedy people who profit over others. It's in America. America, people want to blame the rich, because they're poor. A lot of times, it's not the rich that make you poor; it's the circumstances, and you've got to lift yourself up. You guys are trying to extend a hand to help people lift themselves up, and I think that's in some ways that's heroic. It's underappreciated. I mean, Eileen, when was the last time someone that you didn't give something to or help? I'm not talking, the beneficiaries of your services. When was the last time somebody thanked you for what you're doing?
If I did it for thanks, I would have given up a long time ago.
Well, there you go. That's the point. The people don't thank you. So
I would have given up a long time ago. I don't do it for thanks. But the people who thank me the most are the people who have literally nothing. They are grateful for the little that you give them. They are the people that are most grateful.
Well, no doubt about that, and I hear you, and I understand that. But let me hear, although I didn't know you before this conversation and not chatted with you other than a couple messages on WhatsApp, and the same with the Prophet. Let me thank you for the effort that you put out there to help South Africans. It's an amazing country full of truly wonderful people. across the spectrum.
Yes.
And I do my best to try to promote 3 linguistic groups and 3 cultures, because I can't promote all of them. It's just a big country. But I focus on promoting Tswana because, of course, Botswana. I lived in Botswana. So promoting Tswana, Sotho, because they're their close cousins. And also, I just love the mountains. So, and I like their culture. And then Afrikaners. And not just Afrikaners, but Afrikaners and coloreds by extension, those who speak Afrikaans. I try to promote those groups. And so on behalf of everyone, I thank you all for what you're doing. And I'm sure it's made a difference in some people's lives, and hopefully they've lifted themselves up out of it. But as I've learned, you can't count on government. So, Prophet, you've been in South Africa for a while now, and you've seen this. Were you surprised, or did you know it was going to be the situation that you found when you arrived, because you already, maybe God told you, or maybe you researched it, but were there any surprises when you arrived in South Africa? It's just how things are.
I wasn't much surprised, because whenever God is sending you, He's sending you on a mission. And one thing is certain: missions comes with difficulties and challenges. So I wasn't surprised, because I expect the things the things we saw. We expected it. We know it's not something that's going to be easy. When God sends you, say, go and liberate the people, go and help them out. So, and you will know that there's also going to be opposing, and there's also going to be opposing force that will try to deter you from the mission and all of that. So we expect what we see. The things we are seeing is we expected it, and that has been keeping us going and has been encouraging us a lot.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yes.
But, something I want to add here, too, as we look around, and no one should take offense to this, because none offense is meant, but just I don't want to offend him. But, I mean, look at our broadcast tonight. We've got someone who's white, Eileen, someone who's pink, me, someone who on screen, because the lighting appears to be colored, and that would be Florence, and then someone who's black from Nigeria. That's the kaleidoscope and rainbow. In the South African context, we're just missing an Indian fellow, and we'd have the whole mix. But here we are, all working together, all talking together for the good of other people, and we're doing it for the good of people,
right,
regardless of where they come from or who they are. What more could you ask for, right?
Yes, true. If you ever come to South Africa, don't forget about us. Come and see us. Are you ever going to come here?
Eileen, you don't know much about me based on our conversation. I come to South Africa frequently. I've been there at least 500 times in the last 30 years. And since the COVID scam on political scam, it was a real virus, but the COVID's political scam, since the political scam has been eased, I make a trip about every 6 months at a minimum. And each trip is a tour. They all have a name. My first tour was the I'm Not a Garden Boy tour. Of course, that's in reference to Becca Chile, the former police commissioner, who said, "I'm not a garden boy." So that trip, I went to Western Cape, Northern Cape, Gauteng, Northwest, KZN, and Eastern Cape. And that was the first one. And then each one of them. So I had the BRICS tour, another brick in the wall, because I'm a accredited journalist. I covered the BRICS convention in Santon City. I also went and covered the multi-party charter convention at Emperor's Palace, the same place where the CODESA summit took place. I covered that. I do interviews. I appear on Gareth Cliff. I speak at public schools. I attend events as an observer. I give public lectures, like at the Reformation Society in Rondebosch. I go to farms. I meet with people in inner cities. I do meet and greets everywhere I go. The first trip I went, I was in South Africa for 30 days. And people were so generous, offering accommodation, a couple of people paying for accommodation, that I only paid for 2 of my nights. And I had 17 meet and greets, which are incredibly taxing, because I spend hours with people, answering all their questions, talking with them, hanging out with them, which is a lot of fun. But doing it 17 nights out of 30 nights when you're traveling across 6 or 7 provinces is quite demanding.
Yes.
I have had over 1,000 people at least come to my meet and greets at this point, because I do them on each trip, and I do them all over. Every trip, at a minimum, I get to Western Cape and Gauteng. But I always say I'm not going to go to KZN, and every time I go to KZN, because people just demand that I come there. People want me to come to Eastern Cape, and I got to be honest, I'm not a huge fan of Port Elizabeth, Nelson Mandela Bay. I find it kind of boring. Sorry, folks, but I go all the time.
Yes.
And I've driven all the way up to Botswana to go back and see people in Gaborone who asked me to come there. I've spoken at the defense staff school up there. So I travel all over. I would have made another trip this year, but I ran for office. My viewers suggested I run for political office. I did that. And I didn't want people to donate their money because it's difficult times. So I drained my personal savings, and I spent somewhere on the order of 800,000 Rand to drain my savings to run for office, and didn't get elected. Yeah. So don't feel bad for me. What's that?
Don't you ever come to South Africa and don't contact us, please.
Well, I come all the time. That's the point I'm getting at. So, and I would probably like to. I mean, I've gone out to Hammanskraal before people found out they had cholera. I was there on the ground.
Can you believe it?
I was on the ground in Hammanskraal 2 years ago before anyone even heard about cholera there, reporting on what was going on, and so I do it. Like I said, and I've helped a political party up there in Northwest who was cheated out of a seat by the IEC by getting NGOs and lawyers involved, and they got their seat. And they're making a big difference up there, even although they have one seat on the council. So I try to help people as much as I can. I try to meet people. Look, this is not a faith-based point I'm going to make here, but I've discovered, because I moved around so much as a child and lived in all kinds of circumstances, didn't always live in poverty, but also lived in abject poverty as a child. I discovered, and that was really the formative years when I was a teenager, when we lived in poverty. And I lived all over, and I met all kinds of people, and I dreamed of seeing the world and going all over. And by joining the military, that became possible for me. And I've lived all over. And the thing that always fascinates me is people. I love to meet people, interact with people, discover who they are, what they're all about. And what I found out is that two things. There's a very small percentage of people on this planet that are truly evil, and only in it for themselves and don't care who they harm. And those people we always have to be on guard for. And that's why we need honest, legitimate militaries and police to control that sort of thing. And we need good politicians. Unfortunately, we don't have enough of that last category. That's the problem. But I find people fascinating. I heard recently Dudu Zile was complaining that she couldn't learn isiZulu because of apartheid. And I find that fascinating because it's been 32 years since she's been able to move back to South Africa, and she hasn't learned the language. I grew up in rural Appalachia as a poor white boy in the mountainous hills that weren't washed away in a storm. And I somehow found the interest to start learning African languages in my 20s and continue into my 40s, and was actually fluent in Swahili at one point. So I don't buy excuses like that. People are interesting. If you care about people, you make an effort. You make the effort. And I promise that on my next trip to South Africa, I will make an effort to link up with you guys and come either participate in something you're doing or do it. So I make that promise right here. People can hold me to it. Yeah. So Florence has a big smile on her face. I think she's hearing things she likes. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I am. Yes, it's amazing. It's amazing what you've just said, and how people are in their hearts. Yeah.
Most people in their hearts are good people, and this is the thing about South Africa. If you read the media, you think it's a country full of racism. You think it's a country full of desperation, because that's what the media and that's what politicians want you to believe. But when you meet people in Hillbrow, when you meet people in Hatfield, because they're not far apart, when you meet people in Northwest or in Eastern Cape, most people just want to live in peace. They want to worship the faith they believe in, whether it's Islam or mysticism or Christianity or Judaism. They want to have success. They want to raise their kids. They want to enjoy life. They're not looking to abuse others, and they're not looking to blame others. And that's been my experience with the human condition. That said, there are truly nasty, evil people out there, and they'll stop at nothing to destroy others. And it's sad. But we have to be on guard for those people. We have to be on guard for those people. You know what? I mean, not to go into faith, but I'm not particularly well versed in theocratic ideas, although I'm a Christian by faith. But I suspect that maybe Satan has something to do with these evil people, or they're just out here trying to make our lives miserable. But the good news is that most people are really warm-hearted. What would you say, Florence?
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. Most people are really genuine, nice people. We've got a good heart.
Well, you know what? It's probably about time for us to wrap up for this hour, because we start a little bit late, and it's getting late in South Africa. But let me go around the horn. Let me start with Florence, and then I'll give her a chance to share anything she like and tell us about the coming GoFundMe account that's going to be set up, and anything she might want to share with us, thoughts of hope or good thoughts. And then we'll go to the prophet, and then we'll wrap up with Eileen. So Florence, the floor is yours. I'm going to put you up so that the speaker is on the screen, just you on the screen. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris, for this opportunity for me to say something. I thank you and the Prophet for this platform. it's raising awareness for what we're doing and what we intend to do and how we intend to help people. So I would urge people to support the GoFundMe when I set it up. I'll set it up over the weekend. I'll give you the link. I'll give Mama Eileen the link and she'll share it with you. And I appeal to everyone to donate even the little they have. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, thank you so much, Florence from the UK. Really appreciate it. Let's turn it over to the Prophet. Prophet, please tell us your final thoughts or anything you'd like to share with us.
Okay, like my daughter said, it's all about coming together to assist us on this project. It's not something we are doing for ourselves. We are doing it to help others and also to fulfill the will of God for mankind. There's something the Bible says. It says, when you do this, you are not doing it for the people you're doing it to, but you're rather doing it for God. You're rather doing it to Christ. You say, when you take care of the poor, there's I think a passage in the Bible in Proverbs. It says, when you give to the poor, you are lending to God. That's in the book of Psalms. When you give to the poor, you're lending to God. You see, so whatever we do to assist the less privileged, to assist people in need, actually we also be rewarded by God. We also be rewarded by God. Like I said, there's nothing that gives me joy like seeing those who can help themselves being helped. God giving us that privilege. So I appeal for everyone who cares for humanity, to partner with us in any way, spiritually, physically, materially, in any way they can. It will be highly appreciated.
All right, cool beans. Yes. Eileen, you've got the floor.
Yes. This has been such an inspiration, and I'm surprised to hear how much you know about South Africa. I'm really surprised. Yeah, I'm quoting statistics to you that you know very well about. So thank you so much. Thank you for giving up your time for us. It's really been a wonderful exercise. You've inspired me. I shall try even harder. And I know that, and I will target the private enterprises and see if they can help us. But we have faith in God, that God will come through for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chris.
You're very welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Prophet, you're very welcome. Thank you all for joining me today. Ladies and gentlemen, really appreciate you being here. Be sure to leave a comment behind if you'd like. Also, give us a like so the video gets some attention. Share it with others. And then I ask that if you are interested in helping out the organization, then just leave a comment there so I know people are looking to help out. And then once I get information on the GoFundMe, I'll share it on my news broadcast, and I'll also post it on the video link. So we're going to wrap up here, folks. I want to thank my guest for coming on. It was a pleasure chatting with him today and learning about what they're doing. And it's fascinating to see that it's much bigger than just Hillbrow. They're actually doing other places. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you all for being here. And I will catch many of you tomorrow on Rugby Ascendant. I've got 3 games on tap on Rugby Ascendant on Saturday, 1 game on Sunday. The Lions are playing Sunday. But tomorrow it's the Sharks, then the Stormers, and finally the Bulls, back to back to back. And once again, I'll be knackered after 6 straight hours of play-by-play and color commentary. But hey, we do that for the love of the game. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to my guests once again. I'm going to wrap it up here, and we'll catch you guys. Oops, somebody just subscribed. Thank you so much. Mbongini Kumalo just subscribed. Thank you for subscribing. Appreciate it. All right, that's it, folks. Cheers.
Okay.